Lewis Hamilton uncovers the truth behind Ferrari's order to let Leclerc through, because the order wasn't about 8th place, it wasn't about points, it was about control. Ferrari gave the command, Hamilton slowed down, but he still crossed the line in front, a silent act of defiance, and the moment the balance of power shifted inside the Scuderia. Every weekend, the Scuderia promises unity, but every race weekend, cracks appear, and Hamilton is always at the center of it. What millions of fans saw in Baku looked like a midfield fight for scraps, 8th and 9th place. Nothing to change the World Championship, but under the surface, there was something much bigger. A command that exposed Ferrari's hierarchy, and a driver who refused to play the role he was given. If you're new here, understand this. We don't cover Formula 1 like the official feed, we decode the power struggle behind it. We trace the fault lines, the fractures, the betrayals inside Maranello's walls. This channel exists for those who believe Hamilton didn't come to Ferrari to follow orders. He came to lead a revolution. Subscribe now, because what happens next is not just racing, it's civil war. The final lap in Baku carried more than just a routine message. It carried Ferrari's truth. Riccardo Adami's voice broke through Hamilton's radio with a simple order. 1.5 seconds behind you, this is the last lap, let him by. It sounded clinical, almost procedural, but beneath the tone, it was political. Hamilton had been released earlier to attack the pack ahead. Norris, Tsunoda, Lawson, armed with fresher tires and Ferrari's hope of a late charge. Yet as the laps faded, that mission collapsed. There would be no miracle overtake, no sudden leap forward, and so the balance shifted. The team that had asked Hamilton to lead suddenly demanded he step aside. Leclerc, once the blocker, had to be restored as Ferrari's chosen one. Hamilton, the 7-time champion, was asked to vanish behind him, as if his push never mattered. The cameras didn't linger on this. For the broadcast, it was a meaningless swap for 8th and 9th. But in reality, that radio call was a reminder that inside Ferrari, hierarchy still outweighs logic, and silence masks orders designed to keep power intact. Earlier in the race, the dynamic was crystal clear. Hamilton, faster on fresher tires, closed rapidly on Leclerc. There was no hesitation, no drama. Leclerc moved aside following the order, allowing Hamilton to chase the pack ahead. That moment revealed a driver accepting the logic of strategy, even if it bruised his pride. But the reverse? That was something very different. When Ferrari asked Hamilton to slow down and let Leclerc back through, the context had changed. The fight for points was gone. The attack had failed. The swap no longer carried sporting logic, it carried symbolic weight. Hamilton looked in his mirrors. He lifted, even braked. He moved off the racing line. He showed willingness to comply, but the timing betrayed him. He crossed the line 4 tenths ahead. Not defiance in words, but defiance in reality. Leclerc's earlier compliance looked like obedience. Hamilton's late execution looked like resistance. One obeyed when it mattered least. The other exposed how flimsy Ferrari's orders really were, and that contrast painted a larger truth. Hamilton is not here to play the supporting act. He is here to rewrite the script Ferrari thought it controlled. Riccardo Adami's words carried more than instructions. They carried the weight of Ferrari's hierarchy. His voice, calm and clipped, framed the order as routine. Let him by. But to anyone listening closely, it was the sound of an engineer once again positioned between loyalty to the driver in the cockpit and obedience to the political line of the team. Adami has history. He was the voice during Vettel's frustrations, the one whose hesitations and vague calls became symbolic of Ferrari's confusion. Now, with Hamilton, the stakes are even higher. A 7-time champion does not take orders lightly, and every syllable carries consequences. By delivering that command on the final lap, Adami wasn't just asking Hamilton to shift track position, he was enforcing the team's narrative. Restore Leclerc, rebalance the image, pretend nothing happened. For the outside world, it was 8th and 9th. For Hamilton, it was a reminder. His fight inside Ferrari is not against Leclerc alone, but against the very voices on the radio. Each message is a test of authority. Each pause or instruction reveals where Ferrari places its trust. And once again, Adami sounded less like a strategist and more like a messenger for the hierarchy. The television cameras showed only a blur of cars across the line. For most viewers, it was nothing more than the tail end of a midfield battle. But freeze the frame, study the gap, and the truth becomes impossible to ignore. Hamilton, off the racing line, visibly slowing, still crossed the finish 4 tenths ahead of Leclerc. It wasn't rebellion in words. It was rebellion written in timing, in distance, in pure optics. The order was given. The attempt to comply was made. Yet the result screamed louder than any apology on the radio. In that image, you don't just see two Ferraris finishing 8th and 9th. You see hierarchy faltering. You see a team order exposed as hollow. The driver told to yield remained in front, while the one meant to be restored stayed behind. Hamilton's gap, a fraction of a second, became evidence. Evidence that the 7-time champion doesn't bend easily. Evidence that Ferrari's chain of command cracks when tested under pressure. In sport, optics matter. And the picture crossing the line in Baku was not of harmony. It was of a silent duel, a champion proving that even when he lifts, even when he breaks, Ferrari cannot fully control him. Ferrari can dismiss Baku as a small incident. 8th and 9th, no championship impact, nothing to debate. But inside the garage, everyone knows it meant more. Team orders are supposed to project authority, unity, discipline. In Baku, they projected weakness. An order was given, yet the execution faltered. The message was late, the driver distracted, the optics disastrous. Hamilton finished ahead, Leclerc left behind, and the world saw a team unable to impose its will. For a Scuderia already battling questions of leadership and vision, this is poison. What must Ferrari do now? They can try to tighten the chain of command, doubling down on hierarchy, enforcing obedience. But with Hamilton, that path is dangerous. He is not a rookie. He is not a junior desperate to please. He is a global champion who reads politics as sharply as he reads data. If Ferrari chooses control over trust, they risk losing the very asset they fought to sign. The alternative is harder but necessary. Empower Hamilton, acknowledge his authority, and stop pretending Leclerc's status can be protected by late radio calls. Ferrari must decide if they are ready to be led by a legend or remembered as the team that wasted him. So what really happened in Baku? On paper, it was nothing more than 8th and 9th place, but in truth, it was a fracture exposed on live television. Ferrari gave an order, Hamilton slowed, lifted, even braked, and still, he crossed the line ahead. Was it accident? Was it defiance? Or was it simply proof that Ferrari's commands no longer carry the weight they once did? That is the question hanging over Maranello tonight. And now it's your turn. Do you believe Hamilton should have yielded, even for nothing but symbolism? Or was he right to let the order slip through his fingers, crossing first and showing the world who really holds control? Comment below. Drop #stand with Lewis if you see this for what it is, another glimpse of Ferrari's internal war. And if you want to keep following every silent radio, every late call, every fracture in this fragile alliance, subscribe to F1 Prime News. Because the next race won't just test tires and engines, it will test loyalty, power, and the courage to lead. And Hamilton knows the battle has only just begun.